All right, so I'm not going to do all these in the calculator because it's pretty. All you're doing is hitting buttons. But for the first one example, you just hit sign, okay, and then you type in 127, and then it says round to the nearest fourth place. That's 79863. So that's 7986. That's it. 0.7986. Again, these just type in the calculator. So this is going to be 0.9903. Negative 0.7547. So yes, you can get a negative. Let's do that one. Cosine 139. Okay, so there's a little negative right there. So that's okay. Negative 3090, obviously a decimal. Negative 0.2679 and negative 2.0503. All right? That's all you're doing there. Just typing them in the calculator. All right. Find the area of the triangle. So the formula, remember, is area is 1/2 the two sides that make the angle 57. So 13 and 15 times the sine of that angle. So I'm not going to do all these, but this is how it looks. And you can just type this in. 0.5 or 1/2 times 13 times 15 times the sine of 57. And it says round to the nearest 10, so 0.77. So the area is 81.8 units squared. We say units because it doesn't say inches or feet. Okay, so area equals, here's my angle, here are the two sides that make it, 1/2, put in the two numbers, and then sine of 83. I'm not going to type in the calculator, you saw how to do it. Area equals 333.5 units squared. Angle, two sides, 1/2, 20, 16, sine of 67. Now, when you type this in the calculator, if you know, you just want to say half of 20 is 10, just type in 10 times 16 times, there are some shortcuts you can take to save some time, but that ends up being 147.3 units squared. Angle, sides that make the angle, 1/2, 7, 15, sine of 96. And that equals 52.2 units squared. All right, solve the triangle. First off, we're going to find the third angle, which is easy because it's just 180 minus 85 minus 47, and that makes it 48 degrees. Okay, that's the easiest thing to find. Okay, now you can pick any angle you want. All right, just a reminder. The sine of 48 over 19, the angle opposite it, is equal to the sine of 85 over the opposite side, which is lowercase b, and that's equal to the sine of 47 over little c. So we can just take this first part right here and solve. And it's multiply and divide. 19 times this divided by that. So 19 times sine of 85. Now remember, when you do this, be very careful. You have to close these parentheses. And then that divided by sine of 48. Then we get 25.46, round to the nearest tenth. That means side B is 25.5. Now, you have a choice. Once you know this is 25.5, you can do the same thing with this one. Okay? That's one choice. But some people like to just not deal with the decimals and always use the one that it has whole numbers. That's your choice. It doesn't really matter. So you could do the same thing and do 19 times sine of 47 divided by sine of 48. I'll just show you real quickly only on this one. So 19 times sine of 47, close the parentheses, divided by sine of 48. And I get 18.69 or 18.7. I could have done 25.5. Now this is rounded, so this is where it's not as accurate. It's a little bit different, but you know, sine of 47. Some people will do this, and I want to show you that it's okay. Divided by the sine of 85. See, you can see how it's a little bit different, but it's still going to round to 18.7. So it's going to be more accurate if you use this one both times because, you know, no rounding, but you're going to still get pretty close. Okay? So for this one, I have this, and I have a side, which means I can find that. So the sine of 104 over 25 is the same as the sine of b over 16. And now I'm going to do the same thing here, sort of. I'm going to do 16 times this divided by this. So 16 times sine of 104, remember, close those parentheses, divided by 25. But remember, this is not the angle. I got 6209. So basically what I have is sine of b equals 6209, which we've done before. We're going to take the inverse of that. So second sine 0.6209. And that gives us 38.4 degrees. We could just round it to 38. Then 104 plus 38, subtract that from 180, and we get 38 here also. Again, it's not exactly, we're rounding. So technically, they're not. It's not an isosceles triangle because these are going to be slightly different because we rounded. So if you put 16 here, I would understand that because, well, it looks like an isosceles. But remember, we rounded those angles. Okay, so we're still going to do a little bit of math. So we're going to do the sine of 104 over 25 equals the sine of the 37.6. I'm going to use that because that is the more accurate. Over A. Okay? And we're going to do the same math, and we're going to, A is 15.7. Which again would round to 16. So again, this was 37.6. So they're going to be slightly different. Sorry. That goes over here. But we rounded. So, all right, 15. Again, we can find this out. That was not what's supposed to happen. We can figure this out by just adding the two numbers up and subtracting from 180. So we have 66 degrees. So again, the magic one we have is sine of 81 over 26. So sine of 33 over little a. And again, we're just going to cross multiply and divide, and that's going to give me a is 14.3. And then I just do it again. Sine of 81 over 26 equals sine of 66 over little b. And that would give me b is 24.0, rounded. Okay? So again, we just cross multiply and divide. Cross multiply and divide. Same thing here. We're going to find out that this is 65 degrees. Here's our magic one. So sine of 73 over 34. We're going to do this twice. Sine of 73 over 34. And we're going to do sine of 42 over A and sine of 65 over C. And we're just going to cross multiply and divide. And we're going to get A is 23.8 and C is 32.2. All right, we have our magic ratio. So sine of 56 over 17 is equal to something sine of C over 14. Now remember, this is the tricky one where we cross multiply and divide, and then we have to take the inverse of that decimal. When we do that, we get angle C is 43 degrees. And then if we subtract, we'll get 81 degrees right there. And then we just say sine of 81 over A is equal to that same sine of 56 over 17. Cross multiply and divide. And come on, please work with me. Seriously? A equals 20.2. More of the same. 66 plus 24, that means this is a right angle. That's 90. Okay? So we can actually go back to our earlier stuff and find out from here. We can do sine or cosine, doesn't really matter, because we have the hypotenuse. So sine of 24 equals opposite over hypotenuse. Multiply both sides by 43, 17.5. And then from here, again, we have the hypotenuse, so I can just use sine again. I could use whatever I want. I had 17.5. I could use this number. And any variety of ways of doing this. I'm just going to do sine of 66. And again, I'm going to say little b over 43. Multiply both sides by 43. And I get 39.3. That's it.